Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. This podcast is for and about women of colour and our relationship with nature. Hosted by me, Sheree Mack. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is committed to exploring the experiences of women of colour with Mother Nature. We want to provide spaces where the hidden voices in the environmental and conservation conversations can explore their relationship with the natural world. Inspired by our time spent outdoors, we amplify the voices of women of colour, our stories, our conversations, interviews, photography, writing, and artwork. We'll be exploring our legacies, histories, and memories which have had an influence and effect upon how we perceive ourselves within the natural world and within the environmental and climate justice movements. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is a space for women, feminine, and non-binary people who are Black, Indigenous, people of colour to explore their relationship with nature. Thank you. Right, okay. I'm back after a hot minute, and hasn't it been? But this is Sheree Mack, your host of the Earth, Sea, Love podcast, and welcome back. Thank you for listening to us. I'm not going to apologise because, life happens, life gets in the way, it's there to send us lessons, messages, and if we are willing, we will slow down and listen to them. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I'm saying. But maybe there has been a little bit of a block. Okay, I admit it. There's been a bit of a block because, 2023, we said Earth, Sea, Love podcast is coming out on YouTube too. And we released one, maybe two, and then nothing. And that's been a bit of a block for me. I've been having some really wonderful conversations with some amazing people. But they've just been sitting there on the laptop, in the Zoom folder, doing nothing because I cannot get over that hurdle of editing, film the video that we have to make them into the Earth, Sea, Love podcast on YouTube. So there's been nothing. And now it's like, come on, Sheree, stop. Let's just release. Let's just do what we do because we do it so good. And that's just releasing the podcast. So we're back. It's May. We're getting this out May 2024 before anything else paralyzes me, gets in the way. Sending those messages that are, you're not good enough. You haven't got the time, you haven't got the energy, blah, 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 blah. So, welcome back to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. And this episode, recorded in January. Yep, January. I'm not shame tripping myself. Nope, January, because the conversations that we have are relevant all the time. Because the wisdom, the insights, the feelings, the emotions that we share are always with us. And this one, Juanita Valture, is a South African born, Bristol-based creative studio manager. I needed to have this conversation when we had this conversation, and I needed to revisit this conversation because Juanita has taken that step of choosing herself, She is stepping away from the rat race, stepping away from employment, the job, and how a lot of people do define their own identity. And she's giving herself time and space to find out her purpose, what she actually wants to be, who she actually wants to do. See what I did there? But yeah, and this was a breath of fresh air in the cold months of winter, to be talking to Juanita and just getting inspired by what she was saying. And, she's been in the rat race a long time, working through organisations in their creative sectors. But, she's worked with the National Trust, she's worked in cultural, creative sectors, and always has kept up her connection with nature, with the outdoors, becoming a leader, taking out groups and just sharing that love and connection with nature. So I am so pleased to welcome and introduce you to Juanita. And so listen to this episode, and I am planning. I am saying it now. I am planning to drop an episode every other week. So one fortnightly from now on until October, where we will take our hiatus again. And I'm telling you, we've got some juicy episodes. We've got them all loaded, ready to go. And all we need you to do is just sit back or walk and listen to our conversations, because this is what it is. The Earthsea Love podcast is all about conversation, connecting with people who inspire me, who I'm interested in, who I hear things about, and I want to learn more about them. So thank you for coming back to the Earthsea Love podcast. Thank you for sticking with us. And if you enjoy, please hit us up with a comment, give us some feedback, and also share. Just share the joy. We're all about sharing the joy. All right, bye for now. Enjoy. Juanita, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the Earthsea Love podcast. I am so pumped after we met last year sometime. We'll get into that. But first of all, it would be good if you can let our listeners and viewers know who you are, where you're calling in from, and if you can see any nature where you are now.
Sure. So my name is Juanita. I am a Black South African woman. I live in Bristol. I love this city. It's a great city. I'm in a very residential area, so there's not much greenery. There's some trees, but there are some green spaces very, very nearby. So that's what I really, really love about it. And I've got a little bit of an outdoor space with some plants and things like that. And I have lots of house plants. So I try and bring the green inside as much as I can. Yeah. And what's the other question? What do I do? Is that right?
Yeah. Get into that. Because you've already mentioned that you are changing jobs. So tell us, what do you do? And if your new job is up your street and you're so excited about it.
Yeah. Well, I currently work in the creative industries as a studio manager. It's one of those jobs like I've done since I've completed like studies. So I've always kind of done this work. And I've always loved it, but I'm finishing next week and I'm not doing anything. I have nothing lined up. Which is exciting and also terrifying at the same time. But I think, I'm in a place where I suppose I was just doing it for so long and it kind of just wasn't giving me the joy that it did initially. And I think it took me a long time to kind of get to that place where I think I just needed to remove myself, really assess like, this is really not what I want to be doing anymore. I'm just going to take some time to like focus on myself. Yeah, rest, to be honest. Just a bit of rest, a bit of enjoying just the world. Because I have, I'm lucky that I can actually do that. So a lot of it is like I've got the opportunity to do that now. So I'm going to take it. And then hopefully when I come back feeling a bit more invigorated, a bit more fire, I can then decide what it is that I'm going to do next. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to just pausing.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So congrats on giving you
Thank you.
yourself that. And it's really weird because this morning I was doing some writing and there was this quote, and I've got it here, and it says, I don't know who said it, but quote, I need extra time because your schedule does not account for the time it takes for Black folks to rest.
Mm,
End quote.
yeah, I love that.
That is so weird. So you coming on and saying, yeah, I've had enough. I'm stepping away and
Yeah.
putting yourself first. I applaud that. I totally applaud that
Oh,
because
thank you.
we don't do that enough. We get on that rat wheel that we get lost in the system, produce, 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 go, go, go. And
Yeah.
we get our worth on value from that,
Hmm.
and we lose ourselves in the process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry we're diving into this, but was there a moment or was there some kind of episode that thought, like, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm going. Was there?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Do you know what? I feel like I've been ignoring those signs. I feel like they were there. Like what you saying, you just feel like, "Oh, I just need to keep going." Or like an episode would happen, like where maybe I'm just feeling a bit devalued or just stressed at work. And I'm like, it's fine. I'll get through it. I'll get through it. I've got a good job.
Mhm.
just be like, you just keep going. It's a good job. You tell yourself these excuses. But then after a while, I think like last year, I kind of, because I really like to go on like retreats as well. That's like my self-care. So we'll go on like meditation retreats or like yoga retreats, that type of thing. Um, and I just was feeling just so relaxed in those moments. And I think I did, when I was meditating, kind of just was like asking the questions like, what is it that's not making me feel really happy? Because I was like, I'm not doing well. Like, this is really great to have this moment to
Mm.
sit with myself. But when I go back, I'm not looking forward to going back and doing, my life as it were. So it was like, what is it? And actually I was just like, I need to just do the thing that I'm afraid of. Because yes, I think there is also the fear of like, I don't have anything to go into next. Like, what am I going to do? But
Mhm.
it's like, just, I need, if I don't do that, then I just can't keep going in like, like around this loop. So something needs to change.
Yeah.
No matter how scared you are, there is obviously a fear. And I have like a good support network around me, So I think I've been talking about it for a long time. And I think I just needed that moment to be like, no,
No.
you must change. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. And just hearing you, it echoes that 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now, I left English teaching because of that lack of creativity. And I just felt that
Mm,
it was sucking the life out of my soul. And I
yeah.
couldn't be me. Everybody knew where you were. You were regimented by the bell. And it was a case of like, if I don't go now, I just felt that I was going to be put out to pasture with the cows. That if I didn't go, and it was a
Yeah.
fear factor. And I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything in place. And I just trusted and took that leap and hoped that the net would appear. It
Mhm.
did. It did. But it was good to have that time of choosing me and stepping away. Yeah, so I'm wishing you all the best with this time
Oh, thank you.
period. And I hope you're not putting any limits on it. Okay, it's like, I hope you just go with the flow and the flow of the breath. Yeah, just the flow of
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, just to start, I was like, "Oh, I'll just give myself 2 months, 3 months." But and at this point, as I'm nearing the end, I'm like, "Actually, I want to just go and just see however long this takes
yeah.
and
That's
just enjoy it." And if I feel like actually I wanna come back and I might go back into the industry, who knows? I might feel a new lease of life and I'll feel a bit more invigorated to go back and do that. But I think just having the time to think about, is that actually what I want to do, and not just jump straight back into another role, feels like, it feels so necessary. And I feel I'm really quite lucky, and I am quite proud of myself that I've taken the step. And like you said, the net will appear. I really, really trust that. I love that as well. Like, it will, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, because we trust. Like at that point, I didn't know, but I do know now from all the processes and practices of becoming and continuing to become. I was trusting. I was trusting my intuition. I was trusting the universe. I was trusting, that things would work out. And I've always had an issue with trust, but
Mm.
obviously not where my well-being or my wholeness is concerned at that point. And at this point now, I do believe there's an abundance of opportunities, abundance of energy, abundance of all things out there. And there's not a scarcity. And what will happen will come my way as and when it is needed at the right time, etc. As we are talking now, at the right time,
Yeah.
awesome. And like, so, right. So I'm thinking you are a creative person. You've been graphic designing, if I'm correct, and also thinking about sustainability in creative ways, right? So I'm going off on a tip, but we're going to come back but so how we first met. But sustainability. Now I have a problem with this because it was a buzzword for a lot of the time when I'm filling in these applications for money, right? How are you going to
Yeah.
make this sustainable? And now I don't know if it's from my permaculture stuff, but I'm more of a regenerative instead of
Mm.
sustainability. So I'm interested to find out where you at with sustainability and regenerative. Regenerative. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
that, isn't it?
That resonates actually, because I think you're right. There was this period where it was just like everybody's just using this word sustainability,
Mm,
when actually I do feel like sometimes the means to get there are not the most sustainable. So
mm,
therefore, I think you're right. It should be, how do we regenerate? How do we teach ourselves that like there are better ways to use things versus like creating this whole new system in
mm,
a way that in
mm.
itself might not be sustainable.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think you're right. It is about, being, and I think it is our understanding of nature and things around us, and how we have access to things that maybe we don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
So, being able to, like, for example, just grow your own food, and little things like that. I think there are small sustainable acts, well, regenerative acts that you can do, that in those ways of behaving, they become sustainable. But it's not about trying to buy all these new products that are sustainable. You can make small changes in your daily life, and that is accessible, because a lot of the time sustainability is not accessible to everybody. It
Yeah.
is this trend, that's
Mm,
only kind of available to those who have wealth, and
yeah.
exactly, not everybody has that. And I
Mm,
hate that about it, because it does, it's not really inclusive when you think about it,
mhm,
because not
mhm,
everybody can
mhm.
live in the sustainable way that
Yeah.
everyone is like trying to advocate for, So how do we bring people in? But I think it is about education and knowing that you can do little things without having to buy into this big idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And not actually guilt tripping each other
Yeah,
if we're not up
yeah.
to par. If we're not up to par. Okay, right. Okay, so we're on this creative tip. So let me talk about I want to say like 2018 to 2021, you were at the National Trust, yeah?
Was, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me what your role was at the National Trust, but then also what did you create with your fellow sisters at the National Trust? And that's how we met for Black History.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I went to work at the National Trust. So I've always worked in retail within graphic design and studio management. So again, I kind of felt when I left my previous role, I just wanted something that aligned more with my values, because I am more into like nature, and those are sort of the things that I feel more connected to. So National Trust came up and I was like, amazing, this is great.
Mm.
So I went to do a similar role there, and you know, all those things like the values that they sort of are quite clear about, you know, putting people first, and you know, really sustainability and all those stuff were at the forefront. And I think those were the qualities that attracted me to the role. And I think it's really interesting because I think within that, obviously, the job is the job. You do the job. It's just the same thing within a different organization, essentially. I think the thing for me that I found most rewarding about working at the National Trust was working with this network, you know, the Race Equity Network, which was kind of just forming when I joined. And, you know, the George Floyd stuff happened as well when I was at the National Trust. And I think it was really interesting to see like how those conversations were taking place, you know, in a charity that was kind of, you know, talking about conservation and history and all these type of things. And, you know, they were trying very clumsily, I suppose, to bring people into those conversations. So it felt, and I really just wanted to get involved with that. So I joined the network, and I think for me that was the most rewarding part of being at the National Trust, actually, because we were able to just really change the way those conversations would take and challenge them, you know, because I think there is still a lot of work that needs to be done, but I think just having our voices heard and being able to challenge and making sure that our perspectives were being listened to, and also like creating that safe space so that we as people of color and Black people were able to talk to each other and share our experiences and make sure that, you know, we were having a good experience together and supporting each other within this really, really white organization. So yeah, that I'd say definitely that was like the most rewarding, because I can see now some of the work is still continuing, and I think that's great. You know, I can see that it's still happening. They haven't just, it wasn't just a moment. I think many things will have kind of stopped, but I can see that the people were still there, like, oh, just really great people who are continuing to do this really good work.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how much a proportion it is of people of color or people of the global majority that is in the organization? You know, in terms of the whole organization.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, is it just a small portion? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very small. I think, yeah, I can't quite get the number, but it is really tiny, you know.
It's interesting because yeah, well, it's in the public domain. It's a public, like, it's a university research funded project, which is got money from I think it's Litherfume Trust or whatever, and it's about racism in rural settings. That's what they're exploring, and it's coming out from, I think, University of Leicester and their Centre of Hate Crime. Yeah, they're leading it. And they've just been sending out emails to people who are doing things in nature, who are from people of the global majority, and asking them about, you know, if they'd like to be part of this research project to talk about racism in the rural setting, etc.
Yeah.
And how their aim is to make it more inclusive, the countryside, etc. And they need to get this solid base of info. And I got this, right? And I went, yes. But I let it sit with me before I replied. But
Yeah.
what was an issue for me, and this is where the Race Equity Network also comes in. It's the case of like there's issues that need to be addressed around racism and becoming more anti-racist. But
Yeah.
it seems to be people who are doing this or who are looked upon of doing this are Black people themselves. You know, and it's like I've applied and I said, so really you want to re-traumatize these volunteers who you're asking to share these episodes of racism with so you can get a solid base that racism exists,
Exists.
you know?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and what I took off the email was, where in this research are you actually going out to talk to racist people and say where their racism comes from, you know?
Yeah.
Because again, I think Okay, great, smashing lovely. It's highlighting an issue, but it's probably just going to be passed off as well, you
We
know.
did a report.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you. Yeah. How
Yeah.
many more reports can you do to keep
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And where's
coming
it
up
going
with the
to
same
go?
result?
Who's your audience? Who's going to read it? You know? And the main thing also is that they've got probably a shed load. Then he said something else there, a shed load of money to do the research. But on questioning, no money in the pot to pay the volunteer researchers who they've got from the people of the global majority, and no
Mm,
actual money to pay the people who are going to be interviewed, who are
mhm.
from the people of the global majority. So,
Yeah,
you know, it's a case of that expectation that we are going to fix the world and we're going to do it for free. You know,
yeah, yeah.
and that really infuriates me. And but there is always a but. There's things that we are doing as groups, as individuals, as people of the global majority, which where we're centering ourselves and thinking, yeah, yeah, get on with your research. We're going out into the countryside. We're doing our thing. And this is where also our paths have crossed because you're with Black Girls Hike.
I am. Yeah.
Shout out to Rianne in
Yeah.
MPE,
MBE.
MPE
I
services to nature, getting people out there. So yeah, but tell us, how did you get involved in Black Girls High? And also how you are trying to be a record breaker in terms of a Black woman leader up there in the mountains.
Oh, yeah. So that is a ambition for the future. Um, but yeah, like, you know, I like what I do in my free time is like I love going outdoors. And I joined Black Hills Hike in the pandemic because I was like, I think that was the first time that I was like, I mean, I've always felt a bit uncomfortable going out on walks, but I think for some reason in that period it just felt I felt super like just more visible and just really uncomfortable, and I was like, oh, I actually want to go out with people who look like me.
Mm.
So then I found Black Girls Hike and I went out on a few hikes with them, and it was just honestly the best thing. I was like, this is what it is. Like, why am I not doing this more often? So
Mm.
I tried to like I went on as many hikes as I could, but I sort of they're mostly London based, you know, because I'm in the southwest, so there weren't really many happening around here. And I was like, I could just I think of like a friend was like, you can just become like volunteer, lead people on hikes, and I was like, yeah, actually, I could do that. So I now volunteer with them as a hike leader. I've got some training and I lead walks like once a month. And it's just the most, yeah, I love it. I've met so many like wonderful women, and it's just such a great space to just connect and, you know, just feel safe and like enjoy the outdoors. And I just love sharing that with other people because I think a lot of it is confidence. So being able to be like, yeah, but you know, give other women the confidence that, yeah, let's go out and just have a walk, you know, there's nothing to it really, is really, really great. I love doing it. So with that, I'd love to just because when I had my training, Carla, who's a walk leader, she does the training for Black Girls Hike, and she was like, "There's only like one other like." I was like, "What? There's one other like mountain leader who's Black in the country," and I was like, "That is just insane." So she was so like encouraging. She's like, "Do it if you're interested. Do it." I think she's working towards it as well. So I think just doing that, just breaking those boundaries and being able to just yeah, do this thing that you really, really love and share that with other people and, you know, make it more inclusive. Be like, yeah, we can do this. And actually, since seeing that, there are so many other groups. There's so many other groups who are doing this. And it's like, why is this so difficult to see? Like, it's just not really visible. And I find that really interesting because when you look for it, it's there. But I guess it's I don't know what it is that kind of just doesn't really um hit the mainstream, I suppose. I think there's so many other initiatives as well that Black Girls Hike are doing, you know, with the Duke of Edinburgh Award and various other things, just to encourage young people as well to kind of think about different avenues in
Mm.
terms of their future. You know, you can do things outdoors and nature based, and it doesn't have to be doctors or nurses, which are all great things, you know, but there are other avenues as well. yeah, so it's really exciting. So however I can get involved, like that's my aim. I would just do whatever I can to like encourage just a different view on, you know, what you can do.
Yeah, yeah, totally with you. And that's why, in our projects, we did get funding to train people up to be lowland expedition leaders,
Yeah,
Black women, because being in that position of leadership does send a positive message to people who are in the group, or even to mainstream, is that we have the capabilities and the knowledge and the expertise and the enthusiasm and joy
yeah,
to be leading groups out there. And it's not, and I don't need an excuse, I don't need an apology. I'm doing it. And I think that's where you're on about, people are doing it. A lot of people are doing it, but it's not going into mainstream. And I think
mm,
it is a case of like, because we're just doing it. We're just getting on with it. And I
yeah,
think that's within our heritage of like, we don't need to do a singing and dancing routine for ourselves because we know we're doing it and we're doing it in community and we're seeing the effects. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like we have to do that singing and dancing routine to get a glimpse in, or in the mainstream, if we want to, or we have to put that into the funding bid in case I'm like, we're going to amplify what we're doing. Yeah. So we are sending a message to the mainstream, but really we want the money to just go out and do our thing. That's
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. But yeah, that is, I don't know what to say, shocking. It is, in this day and age, that there's just one Black female mountain leader is, yeah, yeah. But I can understand why that is the case,
yeah,
because there's a lot of hours that you need to put in, a lot of practice, a lot of time away from your job. In that sense, if you were working, you need a lot of kit and, the
exactly,
assessment. And the other thing that we don't actually take into account is that you'd be doing this in a bunch of white people
exactly.
because you'd be the only Black face.
Yeah,
Like, we did our training for the lowland. We commandeered our trainer, but had to be a white man. But it was a case of like, this is just an exclusive group for Black women. We're doing it
yeah,
all in one group. We're not doing it in the general public, sort of thing. We paid a premium to do that, but it was worth it because, as you said, we were comfortable, we were safe, and we had such a good time. Yeah.
yeah. And
Um,
you can relate much like, you know, you can ask those questions that you might not necessarily ask, you know, this white trainer in a normal sort of setting with other people if you're like the only one, you know. So I think having that safe space is really important.
mm,
And, you know, I'm really thankful that, you know, my trainer was a Black woman. Like honestly, I just think that made such a difference, because I think had it been anyone else, I maybe not would have had that same enthusiasm and drive for it, you know, because there's just something really special about seeing someone get to that level and you're like, wow, you're like,
yeah.
this is like, I could do that. You see yourself. I think that's it. And I think we say this all the time, but it is so important to be able to see people who look like you doing those things.
Yeah, yeah, good, excellent. And I'm so glad that we have more and more. Okay, not many up in the mountains, but we're getting there. We're getting there, yeah, of people who look like us in those positions of leadership. So, I'm looking at time here, but as we're saying, and I'm not going to say you're leaving your job and you're having time off, you're going to do NAFL, because that isn't going to be the case. Resting is active, especially if you're not used to it. There's going to be that self-talk going through your head thinking, oh, I should be doing something here.
Yeah.
You know, so definitely give you that time and space to get into that rest phase. Because I usually have January, February, and March off each year. I like hibernate and just do my own thing, my creative stuff. This year I can't because we've got Black Nature in residence, but this is leading into you. What do you do? We've talked about nature, but what's your creative self-care practices that you lean into to,
Mm.
yeah, give yourself some space, but then also to find yourself again and keep that conversation going with
Yeah.
yourself?
Mm. So like I mentioned before, like I really love going on nature retreats and meditation retreats, I've done a few last year. That's something that I would like to continue doing. It's just taking time for yourself and just having the space to just disconnect from, your routine and life, and being in a completely, sometimes they're silent, and it's like, yeah. So it's so different. It really gives you the time to just rest, really switch off and rest, if you can allow yourself to do that. I do pottery as well. I do, weekly pottery. Those are carve that space out, 2 hours every week, just
Oh,
making things. Because I used to do it when I was at school, and then, you kind of just stopped doing it. And I just didn't have the sense that I wanted to monetize it at that time. Like, I went into like the graphic design space. But it's something about using your hands and making something is just really lovely. And like the earth, working with clay as well. And I find that really meditative, because it's so, such a mindful practice, and you are so present because you're really just focusing on what you're making. So I really love having that time, and it just relaxes me. Um, and then, like walks, lots and lots of walks. I just love going out and walking with the Black Girls Hike, having to do my monthly walks for them means I go out and just recce walks a lot, on my own. Sometimes take some friends with me, but yeah, just having that time. So I have that to, and that's really like I really love doing it, because I can kind of just get lost, and, whereas on a walk, you don't want to get lost. So you're a bit more focused. But yeah, just spending time outdoors as well is super, super important for me.
Can I just ask you something? Because you were saying about the pottery and it's your hands. And for me, I'm hearing you're in your body and you're present. Yeah. And then also in the walking in nature, you can get lost. Yeah. And I'm interested, when you're in it, in your body, and getting lost in nature or being creativity, are you still a Black woman, or have all those identities fallen away? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. That's such a good question. They fall away, as I was listening to you say that, my natural response was like, yeah, I don't think of myself as that when I'm just in my body, just in my head, not thinking about how I'm perceived, how other people, because that is it, isn't it? It's you almost, in the world, you are thinking like people are perceiving you as a Black woman, or, you have to kind of navigate. That's how you're navigating your life, because you have no other choice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess, yeah, when you are in this space of just doing this thing and you're getting lost, you don't have to think about those things. So it does feel like a release from that, where you can just kind of it just goes away. And that's, yeah,
Just be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Without having to think, are these people looking at me because I'm Black? Or,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
what, yeah, all of these little thoughts that come into your head when you're just
Yeah, yeah,
doing it not normally. Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. You are just who you are, and it is stripped away from all those labels,
yeah.
which is really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I know, like when I go into the sea, it is the case of like everything falls away, and I just feel so small and insignificant
Mm,
in relation to the world around me, the universe. But at the same time, I feel so empowered and totally myself, or totally being. And I just wanted to know if other people had that. If like it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me. I'm not no freak. No, it's other people. And it's those moments, it's moments, because I know they're moments because I can pinpoint them. But I think I'm
mm,
trying to have more those moments to be more extended
mm.
throughout my day. And I think if I could bring them into my days whenever I'm in contact with anyone, and the majority of the time it is white people because I do live in a predominantly white space,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
that I can be me more, which without the labels on, but I'm just like showing up fully centered, fully being me, you know?
Yeah. That's so true. That is really true. Yeah, I completely resonate with that. It's funny you say that though, because I moved to this country when I was like 19.
Mm.
And so grew up in South Africa, came here like university.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people sort of ask me, like, it's very different going from like a majority Black country to majority white country, because although you are aware of race, I was aware of race in South Africa because of the history of it, right?
Yeah.
But you see yourself so differently there versus here. Like, I think I became so much more aware of my Blackness here
Yeah.
than I was there. There, you almost just like, this thing you're saying, like it's just part of you. You don't really think about it,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
really,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because I suppose everyone around you is Black.
Mm.
But then, yeah, when I came here, it's like, oh yeah, oh, I am Black, but that means something different here. It's so it has taken me like such a long time to like navigate through that and really sort of see the difference that it does play when you move into these sort of they are different worlds.
Yeah, yeah. Different systems. Because, my friend who's from Nigeria mentioned that it wasn't until she came to the UK, was she then forced to see herself as Black?
Yeah, yeah.
Because before then it wasn't an issue, and it was a case of like, well, this is how she was categorized or seen or perceived or labeled within the
Mm,
UK. And then okay, then if that's it, then it is about navigation. Like, let's get with the program because I have to get through the program and live and get through. But I wish there was a different program.
yeah.
That's where we got. That's. I wish there was a different program, and things that are coming into my vocabulary in the last few years is like world building and imagining other worlds. And that's where creativity and the imagination comes into it, because I think if I can't imagine other ways of being or other ways,
Mm,
then I may as well give up hope
yeah.
now. And somewhere else I was just reading recently, it was like hope is a discipline. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, and it is. I'm
it
practicing,
is.
and I'm keeping it alive. You know, through whatever is happening within me and outside of me and in the community and in the wilder world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like just connecting with people who see hope in that same way, I think is so important, because you do need to like fuel that fire in a way, don't you? To kind of keep holding on and practicing that sort of
Yeah.
muscle that it
Yeah.
is like. And if you surround yourself and you listen and you interact with people who have similar view, I think that's so helpful, because it is really easy for it to kind of wither away, it is. Yeah.
Wither away. Yeah. So on that note, I'm sure there was the last thing. Yeah. Is there any words of wisdom? Yeah. You'd like to pass on to our listeners? Words of wisdom or things that you are looking forward to in the future that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Oh, words of wisdom. I don't know if I have any words of wisdom, but I suppose what I've learned is that I suppose the art of like just letting go is actually, it's so useful. It's so useful. Yeah. And for me, that is in so many different ways. It's not just, letting go of this job that I'm not, and know that is not serving me, and so many things within that I know wasn't serving me, but also letting go of the I guess the attachment that you have to your life and your lifestyle, and leaning into the change,
Mm,
because I think a lot of what I need to kind of, well, that I've come to accept is like, I don't know what's going to happen within this time. And I'm accepting of that. And I'm leaning into that change because, like you said, the net will appear. So it's about trusting that I'm going to be fine. I have the resources that I need. My life up to this point has taught me so much, and I can pull from those things, and it'll be all right. It'll be fine.
I love that positive note to end our conversation on. So yeah, I'm wishing you all the luck with your post. And please come back. Come
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love
and
to.
share what you've been being right and what you've been doing. Yeah, because I am all about the being. Yeah, more value needs to be put on that. But
Yeah.
I would like to say thank you for your time and your joy and your light that you've brought to this episode. So thank you
Oh,
very much. Thank
oh, thank you so much, Sheree. I've enjoyed having this conversation. It's been really freeing. So I really appreciate you creating the space.
You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome.